afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Propagandacast News with me, your host, Imperial Dane. And the big news today is there's actually a big balance preview mod coming up here, which of course indicates there's a balance patch coming up. Though apparently that will first hit next year, but there'll be a balance preview patch or mod for us to play in between that to help test them, so to give them further feedback for more changes to happen. So that's kind of, great stuff. As for the actual changes, there's quite a few there. Includes, for example, just more spacing for infantry, which, for example, will be a huge benefit to the grenadiers, so they're less, say, clumped up, which is definitely one of the issues at the moment. There'll also be a slight reduction at all mortars at veteran free, so they don't automatically get so much range there, only when they barrage. That's going to help out there, make mortars less imposing, in particular the American ones. And additionally, on top of all that, there's, also changes to half tracks that will now show experience with infantry nearby it, meaning overall half tracks will veterans up faster. That'll be, I think, particularly important for the Wehrmacht half track, but overall I think that should make all half tracks a lot more viable in a sense, since that way they can work more actively in infantry, and that way, keep pace with experience, that way get, benefiting the infantry more as well with a better benefit, plus they can reinforce from further away, which also tends to help out quite a bit. The Wehrmacht half track will, by the way, also be able to carry around mortars, which certainly won't hurt either. So that's already a bit there sort of going on. Those are just sort of more general changes. There's also been changes to snipers, cloaked units. They won't be for example to quickly hide away as swiftly as they used to, which will certainly also be helpful. That also applies to Jagdpanzers, Luxes, and any cloaked infantry. Also, anti-tank guns won't be able to use this. So there'll be a bit more sort of time there to hunt them down and deal with those slimy bastards. Pumas take also a bit more general hit there in terms of damage they can do to infantry, both machine gun wise and main gun wise. So that'll sort of help them a bit more, make them sort of more specialists. Though I don't think anyone really used them for the infantry bit there, so probably not the biggest loss. But those sort of more general changes. Sort of for the bigger changes, I mean, there's a balance there. Soviet penal troopers take a bit of a nerf there. I think they cost a bit more, but overall they lose the flamethrowers, lose a bit of DPS overall. They'll still probably be pretty damn impressive, but they won't be, just quite, walk over everything and melt away everything, sort of infantry as they've previously been. Guardsmen also take a bit of a nerf there. Overall, grenades become a little less impressive, but they also cost less, so I suppose there's a bit of a trade-off there, but overall they do less damage with the PTRSs, which is one of the problems. The PTRSs just did too much damage in that department. There's also some slight change to the veterancy, which I think slightly shifts armored over towards veterancy 3 as well, but though there are still some slight nerfs there. The bigger ones, though, is the T-70, which will be a lot less nasty as infantry. Will still be good, but not quite nearly as good. The AA half-tech will also take a bit of a light hit there, so it can't suppress on the move, and it will just be less murderous. All of these things should help towards making Wehrmacht infantry, for example, a lot more survivable, but also just make the T-70 and the AA half-tech less, a sort of full 180-degree swing around, unless you're just able to sort of lock it down right then and there. So that's certainly going to be some changes there. Might be a major overall, bit much overall. The F-6 still retains pretty much no nerfs, except gets a slight munitions course now to barrage, which feels a bit interesting. Beyond that, though, there's no real change there. There's a surge, but again, there are significant changes there. A lot of the units are performing, but nothing to the maximum, interestingly enough. And that might lead to a large resurgence there with maximum spam if they're not fixing in the maximum. So that needs to be dealt with, though. That thing would actually be primarily a thing that needs to be dealt with. So I know part of me thinks there might be a bit too much. They might need to slightly bring up some other elements. In fact, I think the A half-tech didn't need that many nerfs when they're already nerfing the T-70. I think they could have just left the A half-tech as it were. So that's a little thing there sort of for further thought. Moving on to the Americans. The mortar gets a nerf, though not the one you'd expect it to. It basically gets a range decrease and, well, it can set up faster, but not set up faster. When it probably should have made it to, not be so fast in getting out there. But as opposed to range decrease, will put it closer to enemy harm. But I don't know. So I'm not entirely sure if that's sort of really going the full length of that is needed to deal with that bloody little menace. The Stuart takes a nerf against infantry. The M20, though, gets buffed, gets cheaper, and gets some other bonuses here, though you have now to upgrade for the bazooka, but overall becomes a little bit more reliable and able to do more, which can make it a bit more fit. They follow up with a sort of following up on a quick lieutenant. The M15 takes a slight nerf, specifically its main sort of gun. They can't do as much for infantry, though of course still have the dual 50 calibers which can suppress, so it'll be hard to say there what will happen there. I don't think the M15 really need a nerf. They seem to sort of say like, it becomes a primary thing after the Stuart, but the problem is it's not really going to be. It's too clunky just be easily used. I mean, you can see it causing problems, but I I think they might be overreacting there with the M15. The other half-techs all take some slight changes there as well. The tactical support one there, for example, becomes a bit more expensive. The third one also becomes a bit there as well. And the other one, the one was always too weak, actually gets a bit buffed. More health, more armor, bringing up in line with the rest of the half-tracks. That is good. Beyond that, there's nothing much else that's happening with the Americans as far as I can remember. With the Brits, you got Piets actually becoming... Well, they become more accurate. They sort of perform more like other anti-tank weapons, so they can still fire arcs, so they become a lot less accurate in doing so. But also, additionally, you get... Hang on there, talking a bit too fast. But you also get less damage and less penetration on them overall, meaning they're going to be a lot less nasty in that way. They're going to be less just, blob away weapons, though I'm sure some will still try, since they aren't really fixing the primary issues there with the British and partly also the Americans. They're not removing the veteran field in the case of the British veteran 2 received accuracy, which makes them, have light cover out in the bloody open. That one is still potentially going to be quite a headache down the road and still encourage blobbing. But then again, with some of the access changes coming down the road, which of course I'll talk about soon enough, and maybe not so much. The AC also becomes less good versus infantry. The universal carrier though gets buffed. And now, for probably what more people want to hear about, the Axis buffs. Flat calf attack for the Oberkommand West actually gets smoked right away, becomes a bit expensive, though that becomes cheaper with veterancy. It loses its minimum range, meaning infantry can't just get up close enough and it can't shoot. It also gains penetration bonuses, meaning it becomes a bit more effective versus light vehicles. That's going to help out a bit there. Sturm Pioneers can lay down the medic packs immediately. So that's also a small improvement there for them, makes them a bit more useful, also gives more room for Oberkommand West strategies. The looks get some changes. It loses a bit of accuracy in AoE on some ways, but it becomes more accurate on the move. On the other hand, it also becomes more accurate versus units inside building, doing more damage to those. So that's definitely also a noteworthy change for those curious. Beyond that, there wasn't so much else there for the Oberkommand West. It's with the Wehrmacht, the real meat sort of comes. Pioneers get buffed. They get more damage up close and at mid-range through more accuracy. That's going to be interesting. Assault Grenadiers get buffed. They gain less received accuracy at Veterans 1. They get faster sprint. Their grenades become more responsive and they become cheaper. So that's a huge one there. Also, medic kits for those who still have them will now heal fully, since they actually last enough time, whereas now they just last 10. They will last 20 now, meaning you can actually get a squad fully healed using these small medic kits available to the units. So that's a bunch of changes then. And we're not done, in fact. Stugis get nerfed, more expensive. Overall, less effective, since currently they were just too expensive. They're just too easy to call in. So that's going to be a huge change there. Panzer Grenadiers get buffs, they lose the medic kits, but on the other hand, become harder to kill. They've actually too get slightly altered, so help that, but basically it means they become more survivable faster, which was one of the issues. Plus, of course, with the spacing, that helps out as well. And yeah, they also, with the G43 upgrade, they gain sort of damage bonus at further range. So they get more damage range now compared to previously. Plus, they gain further line of sight, meaning they can see farther and thus act more sort of aggressively with reconnaissance troops. So in that regard, the G43 overall becomes more of a bonus for the Panzer Grenadiers. No changes to the Panthers, though. Sadly, nothing to make them more viable or Tier 4 overall more viable. That's one sort of abyss there. But yeah, again, considering over these changes, that'll do a lot there to the Wehrmacht. Also note the Stormtroopers G43 upgrade will also benefit from these same changes. So if you upgrade with that, they will also benefit from it. I don't think we'll be getting the same Veterans 1 bullet bonus at all. So that's a little detail there. So that sort of largely covers it. I'll probably miss a detail or two. They'll be posting the links in the video description, so you can of course further check them out yourself and sort of have a look at it. Of course, there's also a link to where you can then try it out yourself on Steam. You can also find the Steam Workshop. It's the Relic Winter Balance Preview or something like that. But again, you can also find a link to that in the link there, so you can try it out yourself. I'll probably give it a go myself to give further feedback, and of course be sure to give Relic feedback on it as you play it out there. Again, overall a lot of the changes are good, but I think they might be going a bit too hard on the Soviets and the Americans for some of those changes. We don't want to completely hit them into the ground again. We want things to be balanced between the two. It's just the Wehrmacht has had some issues they weren't quite able to perform up on snuff. And again, half-tracks there, I think, should do a lot there, since they can then get faster to their better veterans abilities, which actually allows the half-tracks, for example, to better support infantry and also stay more survivable. So that's a plus, to say the least. Plus, Panzer Grenadiers being more survivable. Assault Grenadiers becoming more viable as well. Pioneers becoming better. I mean, good lord. All of that is good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully there'll be more changes down the road. But, it's great to see there's something happening, and it's great to see, a lot of these changes are looking pretty damn good. So these are the Propagandacast news. The news that should hopefully make you a bit more cheerful. So hopefully you liked all of this. And if you did, subscribe, like, share, and comment on it. This is Imperial Dane signing off until another batch of news comes along. Cheers, everybody.